Hey YouTubers, what's up? It's me, yours truly. I am back to do a video response to Mrdylanrecords last thread slash 200 subscriber contest. Video he put up about a week and a half ago or so. So I hope the contest is still going on, but even if it's not, I want to make sure I do a response to this thread, and as always, let me know what you guys think. I know one of the requirements was to have a Dylan record playing in the background, which if you can hear, I do. And this is what's playing right now, which is Oh Mercy from 1989 by Dylan. Probably not one of his more popular albums, but definitely has one of my favorite songs by him, which is saying a lot when you're talking about anything with Dylan, saying it's your favorite. And it's the song most of the time is playing right now. You know, I fell in love with that the first time I heard it in high fidelity, and loved it ever since. So, and it's just a nice UK import. So that's the Dylan I chose to play tonight. And now let's jump into the 4 questions that he had. Question number 1: do you think drugs make music? Kind of talking about the influence and all that type of thing. There's a couple of different perspectives I have on that. Sometimes I think with the whole, sex, drugs, and rock and roll, I think we give a little too much credit to the influence of drugs on music. And what I mean by that is, I think when a person comes to that creative point of, creating you go through your life and you get to the point where you create a Stairway to Heaven, or a, Smells Like Teen Spirit, or whatever else, just classic tunes. I don't think it's just necessarily maybe drug use that could take a person to that. I think it's all the experiences that you have in life that if some big things happen differently in your childhood, then you might not be in a position to still create the songs that you created, or, relationships, and on and on and on. So I think sometimes we tend to focus on the drugs and give them so much credit that we kind of take away credit from all the other life experiences, good and bad, that someone might have had that they needed to have to really get to the creative point of getting some of the great music that we got. So that's one way I kind of feel about it. I try not to give it as much credit, although you can't really deny it in some situations. But even then, kind of my second point with it is you have to think, if a person, because they, were into drugs or whatever else, it took them down this creative path where they gave us this great music, there's also another option that you have to kind of consider and accept with that. If the drugs took them to this place and give us this music that's so incredible, that means other paths were cut off, where the music and great things that they could have and would have created if they weren't on drugs, we lose that forever. So for every path that an artist takes, such as let's use Hendrix for example, or Janis Joplin. Obviously we know drugs and alcohol played a big role in their life. And look at all the great stuff, incredible stuff that we got from Hendrix because of, I wouldn't say because of, but also mixed in a lot with his drug and alcohol use. But what we have to accept is there's 10, 15, 20 years worth of great stuff that Hendrix would have done that we don't get to hear and never will hear because that path was shut down by drugs. So the same way that I think we can say drugs can influence and take music to a certain place and create certain music, in that same tone you have to say it also destroys great music that we'll never get a chance to hear and that would never be discovered. So you kind of have to balance the two. So anyway, I'm getting way too off in that, but that's kind of my thoughts on that. Question number 2: one album that is kind of perfect for the road, and why? Well, I picked one that I actually used to keep in my car all the time. It was a cassette that I actually wore out, and it was this album right here, Van Halen 5150. The album that drove all the original Van Halen lovers absolutely crazy. In 1984, when the album 1984, Van Halen started doing some playing around with the synthesizer and stuff like that. One of the things I think that really pissed David Lee Roth off But then when they went to 5150, they really just blew the synthesizer out of the water. I mean, it's almost hard to find Eddie playing guitar on this album. But again, I'll probably catch flack for this, but song for song, one of the best Van Halen albums ever. And one of the things that I really loved about this is this album really took Van Halen to kind of from a stadium rock type group to more of a party rock type group, even though they were still doing huge stadium stuff with when they went Van Hagar. But I mean, really, this album I used to play a lot when we used to, cruise around at night, and it was just because of the melody, some of the up-tempo type stuff that was in it. It was almost more pop rock than the heavier type stuff that Van Halen used to do. And the whole feel was really just being out with your friends, hanging around, cruising the whole night. That's the entire feel that's based off this album. Even if you look at songs like Summer Nights is a perfect example. I mean, the title alone, the song Summer Nights, that's the feel they were giving across in that you're just kind of being out partying during the summer and kind of, Summer Nights on my radio is one of the lyrics they repeat over and over. And sure enough, you listen to that song and you can't help but thinking about cruising around on just a beautiful summer night with the top down with your friends just jamming this record. So again, I think it's definitely one of the best on the road records ever. And again, in my opinion, one of the best, if not the best, Van Halen record ever. Man, I'm gonna catch so much flack for saying that too. But let's move along. The first song that made you cry, and what was the situation? Bunch of songs I could pick for that, because a lot of songs can bring tears to my eyes. Not even because they're just sad, but just sometimes the overwhelming emotion that comes from a song, even in upbeat type stuff. I guess that's why I'm so connected with music. But the one that comes to mind that dates back the furthest for me is off of the Rocky II soundtrack, which is the song Two Kinds of Love. And if you don't recall that one, that is the song that was actually playing at the very end when Rocky won the title when he beat Apollo Creed. And listening to that song, especially if I'm actually watching Rocky II, and at that part of the end where he's, raises the belt and says, "Yo, Adrian, I did it," and kind of that portion of the song is playing right there. That is just so overwhelming to me. You put it on my TV right now, I'll just start bawling. I mean, and not like boo-hoo crying, but just emotions get so overwhelming that my eyes can't help but water. And that's one of the songs I remember from way, way, way back that always did that and did it from the very beginning. So that's the one I would probably choose. And I think a big piece for that for me too is that I've always been very athletically competitive. I played basketball in college, had a really good career there. I did a natural competitive bodybuilding for quite some time and did really well there. And it's just with all those different things, what I always remember about it when I reflect on it was I was never a rah-rah kind of guy. I never talked trash. I was never the guy that got all pumped up and loud and everything. I was extremely quiet and extremely kind of, level and keeled all the time. And nothing gave me more gratification than to work my butt off and at the end to be able to say, I freaking did it. And so I think that's why that song and connected with that moment and that movie and everything is just so overwhelming for me, because it really sums up the essence of the drive that I've had in a lot of things that I've done in life. So that's the first baller I can remember. Last question. So that was the situation with that. Last question. One cover song you really enjoy, one that you really dislike. Let's get the dislike one out of the way. I love the group, practically worship the group, Godfathers of Metal, but I could not stand the cover of Johnny B. Good off of Judas Priest Ram It Down. Just one of those things they should have kind of left alone. I mean, it was already perfect the way it was, and the song just wasn't meant to be metal tweaked. So, again, love Judas Priest to death, but just did not like that particular cover. Now, a cover song that I really like would be this one here. Wilson Pickett album's called Hey Jude, and the cover off of this that I really like is Hey Jude. And I just kind of tell you the story. When I first bought this record, I was in a store, you know, kind of flipping through stuff, saw it, didn't recognize any of the songs on it, but it's Wilson Pickett, let me check it out. Put it on the turntable, got the earphones on, I'm listening to it, flipping through other records. The first song, Save Me, comes on, I'm thinking, typical standard Wilson Pickett soul, you know, great stuff. And then the song Hey Jude comes on. And again, I'm thinking, oh, it's interesting, you know, and it sounds okay, and, you know, it's a good cover. But then the part comes on where they go into the, you know, na-na, Hey Jude part, and when that kicks in, Wilson goes into this, I guess I'll label it like a soulful outcry, just, you know, with that kind of grittiness that he has to his voice, and just the power and the way that he started to belt it out when that part kicked in. I'll never forget, he made me make the Jimi Hendrix face, and I might have explained it before in a prior video, but what the Hendrix face is whenever I'm listening to Jimmy and he, you know, is doing his thing, he starts getting that soul and that blues and that rock all mixed together, and he goes to that place that he goes to and allows you to come along with him. It just makes you like make this face where it's just like nasty, just kind of like, you know, Jimmy, where does that come from? Like, you know, how do you get there? It's, you know, it's just like that incredible. Well, when that part of Hey Jude on this kicked in, I'll never forget when I was in the store, it made me make that face. And I was just like, you know, good gracious, Wilson, where are you going? You know, it's like all of a sudden you just like see him going to this place. And again, that's one of the special things about music to me is when you can capture someone doing that and you can go there with them. It's just, and you know, that's what he did on the last part of that song. And I mean, there was just no doubt that I was getting this record at that time. So if you never heard that, make sure you check it out. Wilson Pickett, Hey Jude, very, very good stuff. You know, when I listened to it, I was actually listening to that record last night, and it just always makes me think when you see the stuff that they call R&B and soul music today, you almost want to look at them and go, haven't you guys ever heard of Otis? Haven't you ever heard of Wilson Pickett? How easy can it be for you to forget what real soul music is? You know, just people today just can't even come close to those guys. But anyway, those are my answers, YouTubers. Mrdylanrecords, thanks for posting the thread. Hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you guys think. And I will be posting a couple of videos this weekend, probably the Music Room Tour, as well as some other things that I just received from Mr. Billy Creone, one of our greats here in the vinyl record community. Sent me some really cool stuff. And without question in my mind, Billy and New Wave Girl and myself, somehow we're all blood related. We just have to figure out how, because we're just too much alike. But anyway, thanks as always, you guys, for watching, and I will talk to you guys soon. All right, take care.